is so good. And I currently work with Greenhouse Artists. Is that the company you're working
Yeah,
with?
so that's my business. Yeah. So Greenhouse thing. So I've been running camps, songwriting camps, for probably about the last 7 or 8 years. Started doing them in Thailand at a studio called Karma, which is a beautiful luxury studio in a place called Bang Saray. Started doing songwriting camps there. We were the first people to ever do a songwriting camp in Thailand. So that was quite nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was quite cool. And, you know, they were great in Thailand. It was really where I learned to curate sessions and sort of put the right people together and organize these kind of events and host these kind of events. I love doing them. I absolutely love a songwriting camp. I really do. So Greenhouse is now the company in which I do my own songwriting camps. Obviously, since the pandemic, nothing's been real world. It's all online. We're doing them all on Zoom, but they've actually worked out great on Zoom. One of my worries about doing them online in the first place was the connection between people. A big part of songwriting camps is the networking element. You want to build relationships. You know, you're meeting new writers, producers, artists. You want to connect and build extended relationships moving forward. And in a real world scenario, in a studio, you're all in the same hotel, eating, breaking bread together. That connection is really easy to achieve. You know, you're in a place together. Online, I thought that would be a lot more difficult, but actually it's not been. And people have been connecting massively through these Zoom sessions. And it's been wonderful to see that those connections, those relationships have been sort of taking root on these online sessions, and people have been going on to continue to work together, you know, post camp, which is the point of it. You know, if you're an early stage artist and you want to come on this camp, it's not just to make songs. Yes, that's a big element of it. You're doing 6 tracks in 3 days. It's 2 sessions a day. I mean, it's intense, you know. But the major thing is, you know, you want to make relationships. You want to connect with even one person on the camp, where that opens a new door to new opportunities moving forward. The camps are essentially a platform. They're a stepping stone. Use the camps when you come on them, you know, for your, you know, the most benefit you can get out of it, which is not just the songs, but it's those relationships. And they've been going great. I mean, we've done 2 so far this year. We've had 5 songs signed to Universal Thailand. Just had a song away with a big DJ in Europe who has 9 million monthly listeners.
Wow.
So yeah, you know, it's happening. I just need to keep plugging away at it. Do you know what I mean? I really, really enjoy the camps. They're starting to pick up a bit of traction online. So that's basically it, dude.
That is so good. I mean, how often do you do it? Obviously, to do over Zoom now. So it's like once, say, 3 months or?
About every 2 months. Every 2 months, I mean, when I started doing them, I was thinking I want to do this once a month, but it's proven a bit difficult just to get enough people in every month that want to do it. Do you know what I mean? And also pinning down my producers. So I have a team of producers that I pay to make records on the camp.
Okay.
So you're not just aimlessly writing and recording on a voice note. You're making a record, you know. So it kind of depends on, if I can get those guys all in on that same week, then great, we'll do a camp. But if people have got other projects, if they're away internationally, whatever, I'll push it back, you know. So now it's probably about once every 2 months.
Okay.
That's the online ones. I will do a real world one soon. I've just been very cautious with all the, you know, restrictions and everything like that. I don't want to plan something and then, you know, something else happens with COVID and we have to pull it. I will be going back to Thailand again next year, like, again, all sort of dependent on the COVID restrictions. But we have another studio in Thailand now that I'm going to be using called Studio 28, and that's in Bangkok. Absolutely incredible studio. It's a $5 million build.
Wow.
And you can imagine in Thailand how far that money goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, just the moment those restrictions are down, we will be back in the real world ones. And those ones will be, you know, if we do them in Thailand, it's probably once or twice a year, because it's a big thing. You know, I have to get a lot of clients to come to make it kind of viable. It is an experience as well. So it's a lot to organize. It's not just like putting people in a session, off you go. You know, there's hotels, food, transport. We do day trips. We have spa and massage people come in. You know, it's a lot to organize. So I don't do them kind of regularly. But yeah, once the world's back and running, we will be doing them again, sort of once or twice a year for sure.
That is amazing. As I'm invited songs, I want to be a part of it myself.
Come on, man. Yeah, come on.
Well, you mentioned you have producers on your team to be part of the camp. I mean, do you have a big team as well? Like, are there like experienced artists and songwriters themselves to help with the songwriting as well, or is it like a
So
two-man team? How's it work?
the producers are essentially those
Yeah.
people,
Okay.
those experienced people. So producers are people like Reese Fletcher, Alex Sipsamos, Barney Cox, who are, they're not massive guys, but they're all big up and comers in the independent scene. So, I think Reese has maybe 200 million streams as a producer. He's got number ones in China and a bunch of syncs, and he works with all the up and coming artists in the UK scene. So he's great. Alex is great. He's out in Bangkok. He's an American guy that's based out there. I know a lot of people in Thailand just because I live there. Alex, he has so many cool things on at the minute. There's a big like rapper kind of talent show in China, and he just got 2 major cuts out of that. The winner and a sync for the actual show, and that's huge. He also does loads of stuff with big Thai artists. So anyone over there that you see that gets hundreds of millions of streams, Alex is probably a part of the project. So you're like, yeah. So I get those guys in so that there's structure to the camp. If I just laid it open to any up and coming writer and artist and producer and just said, hey, anyone's welcome. I'm going to throw you in some rooms and write. The likelihood that we're going to get guaranteed quality is quite low. It just is. You need someone in the room that's not leading the session, but someone that's experienced, who can take control of the production, who can push the session if it lulls, and make sure that everybody's walking away with a record that day. That said, also, so when people are making records on the camp, listen, you're doing 2 sessions a day. You're not going to finish a song. You're not going to finish a production. It's just not going to happen. You're in a 5 or 6 hour session. So what we do is, you take it as far as you can. You get your best first draft you can get out of a 5 or 6 hour session. But then what I do is after the camp, I do the rounds with everybody, do a follow up and a sort of an aftercare thing. I see what the status is of all the songs. Right. So, Giorgio, you were in a session with Reese and Alex on day 2, session 2. What's the status of that song? Okay, well, we've written the song. We maybe need to rewrite the second verse. We've put the track down. Obviously, it needs more production and we need to lay down the vocal. What I then do is I'll send a message to you and the team that you were in that day and get you guys to book in a follow-up session outside of the camp that obviously you don't pay for to finish your tracks, So I encourage you guys, get the demos done as much as you can in 5 or 6 hours, but the likelihood is you're not going to get them finished. So you do follow-up sessions after that are at no charge. And that's how we do it.
That's brilliant. And before them, say the actual sessions and something, and before the aftercare, do you kind of set them targets and say, okay, this is the introduction stage. This is what I want you to do now. Try and reach these targets and take it from there, or do you kind of let it go?
Not really.
How does it work?
What I do now. So before when it was mainly focused on writing to briefs from publishers for other artists and what have you, it was kind of like that. I would sit down and sort of go, okay, we've got these Latin pop artists here from label X. They're all looking for blah, blah, blah. I would suggest that maybe this team, you focus on blah, 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 and you focus on X, Y, Z. Now, where the camps have evolved and it's become more about artists coming on the camp to write songs for themselves, I do a lot less of that. What I'll do is I'll speak to everybody before the camp and get a gist of what is it that you're trying to get out of this camp? You know what I mean? Like, do you just want to write songs? Okay, great. Cool, you're going to do that. Do you want to write songs for you? Is it specifically for you as an artist to get new records out of it? Is it to make a producer connection? You're an artist, you need a producer moving forward. You want to meet one of these guys and build that relationship. So I figure out what is it that each client is looking for out of the camp first, and then I will curate sessions and put them in with people where I think that they're most likely to get the outcomes that they're looking for, but in terms of sort of like directing them on what to write or who to write for in their session, I leave that down to the team. Let's say me, we're on the camp and it's me, you and a producer. Or just you, a producer, and another artist. I wouldn't say to you guys, I want you to write to this brief that I've got for this pop dance act in Sweden. I would say, here's some pop dance acts in Sweden I have briefs for, but you guys as a team, have a look through the briefs, see if you're feeling any of it. If you're not, see if any of you have got any current projects, whether it's this artist project or maybe you're working with someone else and you've got a project, and work on that.
Yeah.
So it's really up to you guys on the day, in the team, in the session. What do you want to work on? You know, sometimes I will put sessions together purposefully and say, you're working on this person's track today. Because like, let's say I've been talking to you and you're an artist that is doing sad pop and you're of a particular level. And I know full well you're going to work well with this producer of mine and you're going to work really well with this particular writer that's coming on the camp. Now, in that session, because I know I do want them to work on this artist's track, that's kind of the point of this session,
Yeah.
I will give them all a heads up. I'll speak to the producer and say, listen, I'll put you in this session with Giorgio because I think that, you know, the music that he's doing, your production style suits the most. And I've also put this writer in who is really into that stuff too. I think you guys should write for Giorgio today. So, you know, I'll steer it a little bit like that. But at the end of the day, it's down to the individuals in the team, in the session. What do you want to write? What do you want to work on? You know, it's, I don't like to dictate too much, you know what I mean? Because I think actually, I think it sort of stifles creativity a little bit. It's good to have a brief, just to have something to aim towards. It's essentially like, it's just a framework, you know, to get you started. So it'd be like, you know, if you had a bunch of briefs, and some of them were, Latin pop artist, or another one was EDM pop. You read those briefs and it's more of a trigger for inspiration. You go, okay, these people are looking for an EDM pop song that's, you know, 128 BPM in the key of C, with a concept about being one collective consciousness. Okay, great. That's something to aim towards, you know. But if you work so closely to that brief, it will end up destroying your creativity. You box yourself in, and you end up writing something that's very prescriptive to the brief. You might tick off all the notes, but maybe when you press play, it isn't engaging because you were just writing to a brief. Be like doing almost paint by numbers, you know, rather than saying, okay, you know, here's a framework for a paint by numbers, you know, there's where I want a scene of, you know, a landscape or whatever to be, but that's just a starting point for you as an artist, as a creative, to go, okay, he wants a scene of a landscape. Now I'm going to I use that as a starting point to head towards, but I'm not going to box myself in with, oh, he wants the sun on the right-hand side with a cloud wisping across it. That might ruin the painting because I'm so boxed in. Same with writing songs. So, you know, I think briefs being used for just a little bit of a starting direction is the way you want to do it. But then let the creativity happen. Let the song emerge and unravel. Don't box yourself into the brief, because that can happen. You know, you've got this brief that is, you know, EDM song, 128 BPM in the key of C, whatever else, and all of these little things. And through the process of trying to fulfill the brief, you might stop a creative idea that comes in because you go, well, that's a bit off brief. But it might have been actually where the song that you're writing really wanted to go. And, you know, you go, oh, well, hang on a minute, that's not, that's gone off the original concept. And it's like, well, fuck the original concept. You know, you're trying to write a great song today. You're trying to make a brilliant production. You know, ticking all the boxes on a brief is all well and good. But actually what I found as well over the years with writers and producers is whenever they tick the boxes on the brief to a T, those songs don't get cut. They just don't. Whereas when people go off-piste a little bit and just go, do you know what, we're going to write the best song we can write today, be creative and fulfill what it is that we do as creative people, which is, you know, you let it unravel and be the facilitator of the art manifesting itself into the world. They're the songs that always get cut to the brief, to the pitch. The one that was sort of slightly off center, that was where the team went off in their own way with it. Because it's all well and good writing to brief, but like with a hit, with anything good, you can't prescribe it. You can't say, well, you know, it has these factors. It's this BPM, it's in this key, you know, the chorus hits at this time. Yeah, I mean, you could write a song that has all of those factors, but it doesn't have the magic. It's that thing, you know it when you hear it.
Exactly,
You know, you can't sort of project onto it. It's going to be this. So, yeah, I mean, I use the briefs just as a starting point for people. It's something to point towards, you know, get you going. But mainly, it's sort of like it's in the hands of the creators. And again, no, that's why I have the production team. I have the producers, because they're people I know I can trust to get a session going. Because sometimes with creative people, you can just sort of meander. You know, you could write anything, so you kind of don't write anything. You know what I mean? Whereas if you go, right, we're going to get going with this, you know, it makes the sessions focused and pointed, you know, which I think is essential.
100%. And you mentioned that you speak to the artists beforehand to see where they're kind of at, like whether they write their own songs or write for other people. If they're, say, a bit unsure of what route they want to take, do you still allow them to be part of the camp and try and find a route for them, or do you prefer someone who knows what they want and then put them into the camp? How does it kind of work that way?
Yeah, well, it's a really good question, mate. There's a very thin line, very thin sort of a range of clientele that are right for this camp. If you're too early stage, if you've never done a co-write, or you know you've written a couple of songs in your life, this is not the right place for you. Someone like that, I would suggest, you know, you need to do more musical training, maybe go and do a songwriting course, that kind of thing. It's like, this isn't for a very early stage startup who's never really done much. It really isn't, and I will not take money off people like that. There's many reasons for it. You know, it's not good for them. They're going to be in the if you've never really done a co-write and now you're jumping in with a bunch of pros doing 2 sessions a day, it's a lot, man. And you know, you've got to be fast. You've got to be good and fast. You've got to be able to come up with stuff here and now. We haven't got a week to write this song. We've got 5 hours. So I wouldn't throw anyone in the deep end in that regard. And people that come to me that are super early stage like that, I send them to other places. I often recommend the Songwriting Academy. If you're early stage and you want to sort of learn how to get going on co-writes and what it is to be a writer, go to them, go do a course with them, or find something else online. You know, get going with co-writing yourself. Go and find someone at a similar stage to you and you know, build up. Same is true for people that are a little bit further along in their career. So if like you're a writer or an artist who's already got a publishing deal, and you know, you already work with a lot of people on the UK scene, you've already got cuts, you've already got records that have got millions of streams, this isn't the camp for you. Like, again, I wouldn't take their money. And people like that come to me who are sort of beyond what this camp offers, I usually just give them an introduction to someone, either at a publishing company that I work with or a bigger producer or whatever else. Because it's like, listen, I want to help you, but you're actually too good for this camp, you know. And some people know that, you know what I mean? So I'll just put them in touch with like publishers I work with, things like that. But yeah, those early stage people, when you're too early stage, you've got to focus on musical training. You've got to be able to hang first, you know. So yeah, it's not for everybody. So I do a vetting process beforehand.
Yeah.
You know, so people reach out, they want to know more about the camp, they want to come on the camp. First of all, I need to know their background. You know, what have you done in music? What is your story? What's brought you up to this point? I need to know where you are at this point right now. You know, what are you looking to do moving forward? What are your goals? What are your aspirations? What have you know, what's your skill set at? Let me hear some music. So I'll get all of that information, and then, you know, obviously I press play and I see where they're at, and then we have a chat, and I'm usually brutally honest with people. I'm like, listen, you know, I don't think this is quite right for you now, but there's other places where I think you could go. There is this free camp here where I think you might meet more people on your same level. You know, so it's a case by case assessment that I have to do.
Yeah.
And also I do also vet people on personality, if I'm perfectly honest. If someone's really good, but they're really difficult, I'd rather not have them on the camp, because if it's going to cause some shit in sessions, if things aren't going to flow nicely and peacefully, I'm not taking your money. I'd rather my camp run nice, and I'd rather people going, I loved it, I met so many good people, I had a great time, rather than saying, yeah, it was all good, but that one guy, I don't want that, you know. So yeah, we vet it to make sure that everyone's getting the value that they need to get out of it, and not being shortchanged or not being too out of their depth, you know. Because I've had that before on a camp. I remember this one camp where I was a bit short on numbers, and I was like, you know what, I'll let these 2 people on. And it was just a huge mistake. One of them just massively lacked confidence. You know, it wasn't that she was bad, she was decent, you know, but it was too in the deep end for her. It was overwhelming. You know what I mean? And especially when you're with other big characters and people that are like, you know, want to be writers and artists and whatever else. It's just, there's a lot of big personalities there, and she struggled, and I felt really bad about that afterwards, because it was like, you know, I made the wrong move there, allowing her on the camp. She wasn't ready for it. And I had another guy, similar sort of thing. He just wasn't ready musically, couldn't hang, you know. And same thing, I really regretted letting him on, you know, for him and for the sake of the camp, because it's like, you know, a camp is only really as strong as its weakest link. You know what I mean?
It's so true.
You know what I mean? You've got to kind of have everybody on that same wavelength. And I think personality is actually probably the biggest factor. Yeah, you've got to have some skills. You've got to be able to deliver on the day. I think the major thing is you want people going, I loved that session with Georgia. Oh, thanks for putting me in with him, man. Like, he was great.
Yeah.
That's the energy I'm trying to cultivate on these camps.